Today's topic is lists. In Python, there are different structures that we can use to organize data, and those are called data structures. And list is one of the very popular data structure that we're gonna use. We have used list before in previous classes, so in today's class we're gonna review how we did use lists, and also we're gonna look at different ways to manipulate lists so that we can solve different types of problems easily. So probably heard this term algorithm. Algorithm is basically different steps that are taken to solve a problem. For example, if I want to find the letter that is the largest in this sentence, okay, the sentence in white text, if I want to find the largest letter in this sentence, I can use different steps. Okay, for example, I can choose the larger one between the first two characters and keep that as the largest for now, and then compare that one with the third one and keep the larger between these two compared with the larger one and the fourth one, and the one that is larger will keep that one as the larger. In this way I can keep comparing each and every letter up to the end, and then I will find the largest letter, right? So these are the steps or algorithm. We call that technical term as algorithm. Okay, as I mentioned, that data can be organized in different ways, and there are different types of data structures. For example, list, array, then linked list, trees. We are not going to go into those detailed data structures, but list is one of the available data structures that we use in programming, not just in Python, but in all other programming languages as well. If we compare list and variable, you'll notice that a variable can hold just one value. For example, when we store the value 2 in x variable, that's the value x holds. But as soon as we change the value of x to 4, the previous value 2 get lost. Okay, it's overwritten and the previous value is not there anymore. So x can hold one value at a time. That's a variable. Okay, and of course the value can change, that's why we do call it as variable. But the key difference is that a variable can hold just one value. On the other hand, some structure can hold multiple values. For example, a list can hold multiple values. Okay, there are different other data structures, and we can give a common name for them. So a collection of data, okay, that can be handled as a single unit, like a list can be managed by its name. Okay, a list can be created by its name and can be used by using its name. So one list with one name we can manipulate, we can use, we can create multiple data items. Okay, a list of integer numbers can have 1, 2, 10, 20 or hundreds of integer numbers. Okay, a list of strings can have a number of strings. For example, here friends is a list that has 3 elements, and these 3 elements are a string as they are represented with quotation mark, but each element is separated from other element with a comma. So in the first list, friends, the first list name is friend, and it has 3 elements, Joseph, Glenn and Sally. So 3 different values is holding, and They are separated with comma. Carry on is another list, and it has 3 elements as well: socks, shirt, and perfume, and they are separated with comma. So there are different ways we can create a list, but one of the ways to create a list is a list name and then equal sign. That means assign a set of values in square bracket. We need to use square bracket. As you can see here, we have an opening square bracket and closing square bracket, and then each item should be separated from other items in the list with commas. Okay, so that's how we create list. So recall again, the key difference between a variable and a list is that a variable can hold just one value and a list can hold multiple values. Okay, here are a few other examples. A list can have a name, but sometimes a list may not have a name. If we do have a name, then we can use it in future. For example, in the first line here, as you can see, there is a square bracket and inside the print parenthesis, square bracket, and then 3 items separated with comma. So this is a list. Okay, but we didn't put a name for this. Okay, and then on the second print statement, another square bracket, and red, yellow, and blue 3 string values are separated with comma and they are put in a square bracket. So that's another list. Okay, a list can have just numbers, list can have just a string, list can have a mix of string and numbers. For example, in the third print parenthesis, we have a list, and that list consists of the string red, integer number 24, and float number 98.6. So it's a mixed data structure, or mixed type of data in the list. In many other languages, you cannot mix data in list. If you make a list of integer, it's just it can hold integer numbers. Okay, but Python is very flexible from that perspective. It can hold values of different types. Not only that, a list can hold another list as an element. Okay, for example, in the fourth print statement, print function, you see in the parenthesis, you have a list with the opening square bracket and the closing square bracket, and there are 3 items. If we look at the second item, the second item is a list itself. It has a square bracket and there are 2 items separated with comma. So this list consists of 3 elements. 2 of them are integer numbers and 1 of them is a list. Okay, so list can contain different type of object. A list can be also an empty list. Okay, so let's say you want to construct a list. You can start with an empty list and then you can add different items with that empty list. Now, when we use list, typically we process each element of the list. Okay, generally we traverse through the list, or we pick up each item and do some operation with those items. For example, here we are using a for loop and then a variable. This I variable is taking each of these values in the list. For I in list, this is a for loop, and this for loop will execute 5 times because there are 5 elements in the list, and each time the variable I will take different values from the list. So when this for loop executes, the I will be 5. Second time the for loop executes, I will be 4, and then I will be 3, I will be 2, and I will be 1. And inside the for loop, there is a print of I. That means it's going to print 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And the next print statement is not inside the for loop, that's after the for loop. So this will not be repeated. The last print statement will be printed just once. Okay, but the first print statement is inside the for loop, so it will execute as many times as the for loop will execute. In our case, we have 5 elements, so for I in list will execute 5 times, and each time the I variable will take different values. If we have a list of a string, we can use the same for a structure. For A, for example, for A in friends, the list name is friends. We can say for A in friends. So this is the control variable, loop control variable. The list name is friends with an S at the end, but the variable here right after the word for is friend. These two are not the same. Okay, so this one, friend, is a variable, friends is a list. So to avoid confusion, we can say for A in friends. In that case, we'll say print Happy New Year and then A if we change this variable name, if we use something else, just to avoid confusion between friend and friends. Okay, anyway, so in the same way, so this variable will take different values from the list. So this for loop will execute 3 times, and each time will take different value. First time this friend variable will take Joseph, second time it will take Glenn, and third time it will take Sally. So first time when it executes the print, it will say Happy New Year Joseph, and then Happy New Year Glenn, Happy New Year Sally. Exact same thing represented with a different name. So instead of friends, it's using Z here, and then the instead of friend using X, and then everything else is the same. We are just changing the variable name and list name. Doesn't make any difference in terms of execution and output. It's exactly the same. Now, list also has index or position. Okay, the leftmost item index or position is called 0 index. So if we have a list of Joseph, Glenn, and Sally, 3 strings, then the first item, the leftmost item, is the first item. Its index is 0. The second item index is 1. Third item index is 2. So 3 items index 0, 1, 2. 5 items index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 10 items index 0 to 9. Okay, 0 is included, and that's why the index ends one less than the number of item. Okay, because 0 is included. Anyway, so we can specify any of these items by mentioning the name of the list and then a square bracket and then index. Just like here inside print, we have a friends and then a square bracket and number 1. So this number 1 is the index. Okay, so that means this is the second item in the list. The first item in the list will be with 0 index. The second item in the list will be 1 index. Okay, so if we want to get the third item in the list, then we have to say the list name square bracket 2. If we want to change the third item in the list, then we have to say friends square bracket 2 equal the new value. Okay, whatever we want to change it to. Anyway, so list has index, and this index represents kind of position. Okay, and based on the position we can pick up elements as well. So if I want to print these 3 elements using a different style than the previous one, previously we said for X in Z. X is the loop control variable, Z is the list. For X and Z, X automatically picks up every element. We did not use any index here, but we can also use index. Okay, for example, friends 0, friends 1, and friends 2. Okay, will represent 3 items. So 0, 1, 2, instead of putting 0, 1, 2, we can put a variable here, there. So friends I. Okay, inside here, in place of this 1, we can say friends I, and that I variable value can change from 0, 1, 2 in the for loop. We have used for loop that way. We have used range. If you remember, we can take a look at there. Here, fruit is a string. A string works very similar to list, okay, but not exactly the same. A string is like a list of characters, okay, but not exactly it is a list. For example, we can change an element in a list by using its index, but we cannot change a character in a string by using index. If we try to do so, then it will show an error. Okay, this is a string, fruit is a string, it's not a list, it is not enclosed with a square bracket, and the elements are not separated with comma. It's simply a string, but it behaves similar to list in many ways. In many other ways, it is not exactly the list. For example, in a list, we can change a value. For example, here, Lotto is a list of 5 items, 5 numbers. When we say Lotto 2, that means 0, 1, 2, this third item, we can change by an assignment. Okay, that will change this 26 to 28. And as you can see, that it was printed before the change, and then it was changed to 28. So 26 changed to 28 and then printed again. So it shows 28 here. Right? So we can change different elements of a list, but we cannot change different characters of a string. Okay? So that's how the string is not exactly a list. All right? If we want to change a string, we have to actually make a new string. Anyway, there are several functions we can use with list, as well as many of these functions apply to other data or other type of data. For example, len, L-E-N, this is a function that can be applied on a string. So greet here is a string, and then if we use the len function on this string, it will tell us the number of characters in the string, or in other words, it will say the length of the string as a number of characters, how many characters are there. It counts the space character as well, so there are 9 characters here. So if you print the length of greet here, it gives you number 9. If we apply this len on a list, for example, X is a list which has integer numbers as well as a string, the len function will find out how many items, not how many characters, how many items. Remember, each item is separated with a comma. So how many items are in the list. So len gave you the number of items in the list. We have 4 items here, so len of X gives you 4. We have used the range function. The range function, in fact, creates a list. Okay, we have used range in different ways. If we use range with just one number, it tells us up to which number the list will have. Okay, so let's go to code. Let's write some code. Okay, let's say print start, and then we have for I in, let's say range 5. We can use range in different ways. Okay, I'll show those different ways. Range essentially creates a list. We can use 2 numbers in range. We can use 3 numbers in range. 2, 15, and 2. So there are different ways you can create the range. Range essentially creates list. When we have just one number, it creates a list. It's a list from 0, 1, 2, 3, up to 5, but not including 5. That means it stops at 4. Okay, when we have just one number, it starts from 0, increases by 1, and goes up to, but not included the number. So that means it will have a list of this. Okay, if we print this list, if we say print I, that will print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We can create the range, another list, but with two numbers. When you have two numbers, it will create a list like this is the first number it will start with, so 3, and so 3. It will not start from 0. When we don't say anything, okay, it will start from 0. When we say the two numbers, then it will start from the first number, and will also auto increment by 1 and go up to the last number, but not including that number. So it will create a list of 3 and 4. If we make range with 3 numbers, so the first one is the start, and the last one is the increment, okay, or how many steps. So it will increase by 2, so 4, 6, and this 15, it will go up to 15, but not included, so it will stop at 14. 6, 8, 10, 12, and then 14. If we say here 16 again, instead of 2 to 15, if I say 2 to 16, then it will go up to 16, not included, so it will stop at 15. However, the increment wise, it does not land on 15, so it's the same result. Okay, it will stop at 14. So we have used range in different ways, and if I do print, so print let's say first list, print second list, third list. So first list started from 0, did go up to 4. Second list started from 3, did go up to 4. Okay, just one number before the last number. And the third list started from 2, incremented by 2, stopped at 15, but because of jumping by 2, it did go up to 14. So range is essentially a list. Okay, we have used range before. Now we can also can we have more than 3 numbers in the range? If you look at the structure, this shows the structure. Okay, it has a start, which is an integer number. Okay, it has a stop, which is an integer number, and then it has a stop, also an integer number. Okay, so we don't have more than 3 numbers in the structure. Okay, we can also make a step of negative. Okay, that means go from a higher number to a lower number. So let's say the start is 20. The start is 20, and then stops at 5, but goes by -1. Okay, So it will start from 20 and then 19, 18, it will come up to 6. 5 is not included. We can also do by -2, -3. When we have a minus, the start should be larger and the stop should be smaller. If we put a minus and the first one is larger, you will get an empty list. Okay, so if we run the last one, I did not finish. Fourth. So the fourth list started from 20 and did go up to 6. Okay, with negative as the increment, that means decrement. Okay, so we have used list in different ways by using range. Range is a very convenient way to control a loop, how many times we want to execute the loop. Okay, and now because we have list and list have indexes as well, so we can use this range to go through the list by using a loop. Okay, if we have list of strings, we can find the length. Length gives us len, the function is len. It gives us how many items. Okay, so if you want to go through the list, let's say we don't know how many items in a list, suppose. Okay, we have a list but we don't know how many items. Let's say a equal in this example we know exactly how many items, but we can create list from user input and we can choose the user to create a list of any number of items. Okay, so user can create when we give the user the option to create the list, user can stop after 3, user can stop after 20, user can stop after 50. So the length of the list will be unknown to the programmer when we write the program. Okay, so we have to determine the length of the list. That's why we can use len of a. Okay, so if I want to traverse, assuming that the length is unknown, okay, at this moment, because user can give input and we can take input as many as user want and then create the list while running. So the length of the list will be unknown to the programmer, so we can find out by using len function. Now, can we use the range to control the loop? Yes, it's not difficult. You can say for I in range and then the length of a. So that will start from 0. In this example, we have length is 6. There are 6 items. So the length of a would be 6. So we're essentially now saying for I in range 6. Okay, so that will make a list of 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this range will create this list based on the length of the current list. But remember, this length can be dynamic. Okay, if we let the user choose the length, then we have to write the program in that way, so it can be a different length for different user. So when we run the program, we have to find the length after constructing the list from user inputs. Okay, and then we can make a loop with for to go through these items. We can access each of these items. Now I is the index, okay, because I started from 0. So we can easily use I as the index. I can say print A. Now this time I'm going to use the index. Of course, we could do this exact same thing, print each element in a different way, and depending on what the ultimate problem we want to solve, we can use one way or the other. So let's say print using index, and then print not using index for I in A. Simply we can say print I. That will also print each element, okay, but not necessarily we just print the element. We can do many other things. Sometimes this one is convenient, okay, than this one. Here for this option for I in A, you don't have the choice to pick up a specific item from the list. You cannot just pick up the third item, okay. You cannot change any specific item from the list or any specific position. But if we do use index, we can choose a specific positions value. We can take it, we can change a specific positions value, and so on. Anyway, if we run, they give you exact same output, okay, but these are two different ways to go through the list, the same list. Okay, I've seen this. Now we can merge two lists by using plus sign. If we merge A plus B, the elements of A comes first and then the elements of B, okay. So when we print C, that will, since C is the combined list of A and B, so C will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. The elements of A comes first and then the elements of B. Now if I change this to, let's say, B plus A, what would be the output here? If we print C, what would be the output after changing the code? C equals B plus A. Anyone? What do you think will be the output when we print C? Wanna try? What do you think will be the output? So the elements of B as it is from the beginning to end, so 4, 5, 6 comes first, and then 1, 2, 3, okay. Alright, we can slice or cut into pieces, okay. We can cut into pieces. We can cut a list into pieces or slice a list. To slice a list, we need to use the colon. Before colon, you can have a number, and after colon, you can have another number, okay. So you say the list name in square bracket, you use colon, and then before and after the colon you can use two numbers. For example, here the list name is T, and then in square bracket we are using colon, not just one number. When we use just one number in a square bracket, that indicates the index, okay. Let's take this and or we can use our example. Let's say 12. And then we're gonna slice. Okay, so to slice, we mention the name of the list, which is A, and then in a square bracket, if I put just one number, for example, if I put 3, that is the 4th number. First number starts with 0 index, so this is the index, and A3 means 4th number. First, second, third, fourth. This will print 6, right? But if we want a slice start from a start to an end, then we use 2 numbers and a colon in between. So let's say 1 colon 4. Okay, and then we run. So it took the index 1, 2, and 3. Not including 4. The index 1, 2, and 3. The first, the index 1 is 4, index 2 is 5, and index 3 is 6. Okay, not including this last number. Now, out of these 2 numbers, we can avoid one number, not the colon. We can avoid one number. If we avoid the first number or remove the first number, it starts from 0. Okay, starts from 0 index. So by default, when you don't say the first number, that it starts from 0. So that means it will include the first number as well. Okay, if we avoid the second number or remove the second number, it goes up to the last number in the list, up to the last element in the list. Okay, so it starts from the index 2, that means number 5 in our example, and will go up to the last number. So it did go from 5 to 54. If we skip both numbers but just put a colon, that means it will take the default number and as the first number, which is 0. Okay, default is 0. If we don't say anything, it's 0 index, and if we don't say anything in place of second number, it will go up to the last. So that means this is going to take every number of the list. All right, so this is slicing. If we want just one number with slicing, then we can say 5 to 6. Okay, it will start from 5 and go up to 6, not including 6. So it will take the 6th item or 5 index. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means number 7. Okay. What is wrong? Oh, sorry. 5 to 6. We're saying A and then 5 to 6. So it will take number 7. All right. So that's slicing. Okay. Now, list has a data type for itself, and the type is called list. Okay, we have seen the integer data type int for variable, string data type str, float data type for decimal point numbers, and so on. So if you look for the type of a list, it will say the type is list. Okay, there is another method. Method is similar to function. Okay, another method dir. I'm not going to go into detail of this. It gives you different functions that you can use for the list that you passed as an argument for dir. In other words, we can have append, we can have count, we can have extend, we can have index, we can have insert, pop, remove, reverse, sort. All these functions we can use on a list. So we can append items in a list, means it will add item at the end. If we append one item, it will add one item at the end. We can count the number of items. Not just len gives you, len is also a function, but these are method that applies to specifically list. Okay, we can use len for many other data type. For example, if we use len on a string, that will give the length. We can use len for list as well, but count will give you the number of item that specifically applies to list. So count function will give you the how many items in the list. Extend will add more items in the list. Index will give you the position of an item by searching, and then search you can give a value and ask to find its index. Okay, that will give the index. Insert will add item anywhere with the list. You can insert any place. Pop will pick up an item from the list, okay, or read an item. Remove will remove an item from the list. Reverse will give the list in the reverse order, okay, not from the beginning to the end, but from end to the beginning in reverse order. Sort will sort it smaller to larger, smallest to largest, or largest to smallest, depends on what type of other. So these are different operations or methods we can apply on list. Let's take a look. We can create a list, empty list, by calling its constructor function. The function name itself is list. So this is a function. Remember, a function has a name and then a parenthesis. So this is a function. So when we call that function and assign to a variable, this variable becomes an empty list, list without any item. And then the list name dot, here pay attention that these functions, okay, these functions you use by saying the list at the beginning dot this function name, okay, list name dot these function names. So here's an example. The list name is a stuff, which is an empty list initially, dot append, that adds this item with the list, and then again the same list name dot append. So this is the second item that was added to the list. So when you print, you see those two items that were appended, and then another item is appended, okay, and then print the list. So now you have three items. Okay, so here you need to be here you need to pay attention how you append. List name dot append, okay, and then in parenthesis after append you put the item that you want to add with the list. Similarly, I will come to this slide a little later. We can use other functions such as the list name dot sort, that will sort the item if it's a list of a string, sort them alphabetically. So the item that represents the lowest in terms of the character, starting from the first character. So the first character here is J, G, and S. Think about dictionary words. Which word will come first if we start from the beginning of the dictionary? the Glen will come first because G is smaller than J or S. So Glen will come first. So according to the order, smallest to largest, Glen will come first. So we can apply sort function on a list. Okay, that will sort the item from smaller to larger. We can also sort in reverse order or largest to smallest. In that case, inside the sort function parenthesis, we have to say reversed equals true. We'll see that example later. But sort is another function I can apply. And if we go back, we can say whether an item is in the list or not. For example, if we have a list named sum, and then we want to find out if 9 is inside the list, then we can use 9 in the list name. Okay, so let's try to use this code. Let's say here I want to find out if 20 is in the list. So I can say if 20 in A. Okay, if this is true, then we can say print found 20. If that's not true, so that goes else, right? Print 20 not found in the list. So 20 in A, this is a comparison or search inside the list. 20 in A, that will search 20 in the list, will return true if it is found, will return false if it is not found. So when we say if 20 in A, or if this is true, then we say found 20. If it's not in the list, then we will say 20 not found in the list. So as you can see, 20 not found. If I add the item 20 anywhere, this time it's going to say found 20. Right? Okay, so here 20 in A, it's essentially search that item in the list and returns true or false. Now we can use that in an if statement. If 20 in A, then do something else, do something else. There is another example, 15 in the list. Okay, that returns as false because it's not in the list. Okay, we can also use not in the list. 20 not in the list. If it is not in the list, then it will when we say 20 not in list name, then it will return true if it is not in the list. Is 20 not in list? Yes. So it returned true. Okay, so we can use the list name dot sort that will sort the list from smallest to largest. Okay, we can let's do this. So a dot sort, that does sort a smallest to largest, and we can print this. Print a dot sort. So this will sort this item for smallest to largest and then print that sorted list. It's creating a confusion. First sort. When we used sort inside print, it's arbitrary. Not sure whether sort should be done first or the print should be done first. Okay, so that's why I couldn't do sort inside the print. Okay, so we do sort first and then we print A. So that will change the list item, rearrange them, and put smallest to largest. We can also sort in reverse order. In that case, we have to say a.sort, but inside the parenthesis, reverse, okay, equal true. This true, capital T, it's a keyword. This logical true, okay, sorry, Boolean true, true or false. So if we do sort and then say reverse equals true, that will sort in reverse order. So the largest will go first, as you can see, because it did sort. Now Python, a lot of data manipulation is very easy as compared to many other languages. There is no such function in many languages. Okay, you have to apply algorithm to do the sorting. Okay, let's go back to the slide. If we use a list of string, that also does that sorting on the string. So you say B and then B dot sort and then print B. So G is smaller than S and also smaller than J. So Glenn comes first, then comes Joseph, then comes Sally. Right? Glenn, Joseph, Sally. If I sort reverse, then I have to say reverse equals true. So Sally will come first, then Joseph, then Glenn, as you can see. All right. There are some functions, built-in functions. They're not specific to list, but can be applied in for many other things as well. For example, len. We did see how to apply len on a string. Okay, we can apply len on the list. That will give how many items in the list. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So len of this list name gives us 6. Max of this list name will gives us the maximum value. Min of this list name will give minimum value. Sum will give the total. So if I go here, doesn't matter if I sort or not, I can say max of A. Okay, print min of A. That will print the minimum. Print and then we have sum, and we can find the average. So we have sum of A, that will give us total. So this is the maximum, 54, minimum is 2, and then if you add all these numbers, that gives us total this. And then also we can find out how many items are there, right? How many items, that is the len. Len gives us how many items. So we can say average of this number, okay, AV, suppose, equal sum of A divided by len of A. Length gives us how many items, sum gives us the total, and then print average. So that will give an average. So 169 divided by 369 11 items. So 169 divided by 11, that's 15.3636. Okay, so we can use these functions. We need to get the average, we need sum and len. Okay. Here, in this code, it started with an infinite loop and giving the user to enter different numbers until the user wants to stop. So if the user wants to stop, the user should type in done. Okay, and then the program will add all of these numbers and then we'll count how many numbers and then we'll find the average. So this is the way to find the average without using list. As an alternate, if we have a list, we add those same numbers in the list by using append. Okay, so the list get constructed and then use the sum function, len function, divide sum with len, we get the average. The same functionalities in two different ways. Let's try something like that. Okay, let's say a is equal to input, enter a number. Okay, now we want the user to say when he wants to stop. So user will give something and then we can say, yeah, that is the end. So you can say if. Okay, now this input is in string, right? So we can convert the string into number, but if the string is, let's say, if a equal end, then we can say we can stop the input. So we start with the while loop, infinite while loop, and then indent everything inside the while loop. If the user types in end, then we do break. Remember, a break statement takes out of the loop inside which this break is located. So we have the while loop, and if the user types in end, the while loop will stop. If user doesn't type in end but gives a number, then we can start constructing a list. So we have seen how to start a list. Let's say list1 equal list constructor function. Okay, list, list, it has to be list. So this is one way to create a list. Of course, we have seen we use a square bracket, and that is another way to create list. And then every time the user gives a number, we want to add that number to the list. Okay, so list1 dot append, and inside we want to put that number that the user typed in. Now the user typed in the number that was put in A. However, if we want to make it as a number, then we have to convert it to number. Otherwise, A will be in a text format, string format. So this loop will continue. This loop will continue. User will keep giving input, and the list will keep expanding. Okay, but if the user types in end, this while loop will stop. It will break or go out of the while loop. So after that, so we unindent. Okay, after that we can print, let's say, the list 1, and we can see what is in the list 1. So if I run if A is, what is wrong here? Can anybody say what is wrong here? We are making a comparison. What is wrong in here on this line? We're comparing if A equals end. Do you remember how do you compare equality? If we use one equal sign, that is an assignment. Okay, so to compare, we have to use equal, double equal. Now run, enter a number 3, enter a number 4, 5, 6. I can keep going. Okay, now when I'm done, then I have to type end. And if I type end, that's the end of taking input, then it prints the list that I took as number. So all this number made the list. I can do whatever I want with the list. For example, list1 dot sort. Okay, and then print. Sorry, I did type an empty line, that's why it did give an error. Let me try again. And then when I'm done, I have to say not done, I have to say end according to our code. Okay, and then it did sort the input in the list, and then I printed the list. So it did sort. Okay. We have seen this type of example. List of a string for control variable in the list name, print the list. Also here we have a string ABC. ABC is a string, it's not a list, right? We can use the split function with the string. Okay, we can use a split function with the string. If we do a split function with the string, then it will split each word. It will split or divide each word. Okay, and we can put this list of words in a list. So we have a string, and then we can split that string and assign in a list. Okay, for example, so let's take this out. Input, enter a string. We can put that in S in a variable, and then s dot split, and we can put this in a, when it does a split, whatever the user input is, that input will be split into words. Okay, so we can put that in a variable. When we put that in a variable, that variable becomes a list. So let's say list 1. Print list 1. Now if I run, enter a string. This is our 7th class of the semester. I entered, this is our 7th class of the semester. So this was the input. And then that input did go in S. When I did a split, it did split every word. And then I put that splitted result in a variable. So this variable becomes a list. And then I printed that list. You can see this list has different words from the sentence. Okay, and run once again. This is I'm using tab plus. So this time I used multiple spaces here, I used tab here, and then when I press enter, it did ignore multiple space and tab. Still that split function splitted the input into different words. Alright, let's go back. So we've seen how to split normally. We can also say split at certain characters. For example, if I say split whenever you see a semicolon, okay, split whenever you see a semicolon, that will split at the semicolon. So I have to say split whenever you see a semicolon. Okay, if I do that and then I run, this is semicolon, our class semicolon, time to end. So it will split at the semicolon. Okay, so expected to have 3 items. You see it did split at semicolon. So the first part, second part including the white space or tab, and then the third part. So we can use split and specify a delimiter or with which character it will split. Okay, other examples, but it's the same type. Did split first, and then from one of the splitted item. So this is one of the splitted item. Split again this item, which is the index 1, and then this time it was splitted with @. So this is an email address. Okay, it's like a one word. There is no other space in between. So it's like a one word, and then this is the second item or index 0 in the list. So that index 0 is split again with the delimiter @. So this email ID, first part, and the domain name, they are split, okay, into 2 separate items. We need to finish here. Okay, take care everyone.